America is respected again as a country. We were not respected with Biden. They looked at him falling downstairs every day. Every day the guy's falling downstairs. He said, it's not our president. We can't have it. I'm very careful, when I walk downstairs, like I'm on stairs, like these stairs. I walk very slowly. Nobody has to set a record. Just try not to fall.
What's up, everybody? Major Retired Richard Ojeda here, and this week something unprecedented happened. Something so absolutely insane that the only way you could make sense of it was through the lens of the tag team of stupidity themselves, Whiskey Pete and the Bone Spurs Draft Dodger, otherwise known as the Fox and the Fraud.
I walk very slowly. Nobody has to set a record. Just try not to fall, because it doesn't work out well. A few of our presidents have fallen, and it became a part of their legacy. We don't want that. You walk nice and easy. You don't have to set any record. Be cool. Be cool when you walk down, but don't bop down the stairs. So one thing with Obama, I had zero respect for him as a president, but he would bop down those stairs. I've never said da-da-da-da-da-da, bop, bop, bop.
They compromised operational safety by ordering every single officer, every admiral, every general to gather in one place. Think about that. One room, hundreds of top military leaders at the same time. Social media lit up, calling it what it was, a potential decapitation strike on America's military leadership. People were worried, and rightfully so. Some thought it was a loyalty oath to Trump. Others figured Pete Hegseth would just be fueled up on whatever was in his cup, spouting off about warrior ethos and firing those who didn't jump on the bandwagon.
It's completely unacceptable to see fat generals and admirals in the halls of the Pentagon and leading commands around the country and the world. It's a bad look. It is bad, and it's not who we are.
And let's not forget who we're talking about here. Pete Hegseth, the same guy who smacked himself in the nuts with a skateboard live on Fox News. The same guy who nearly cut off a drummer's arm throwing an axe. The guy with more bloopers than accomplishments, hiding his failures behind Jesus talk and chest-thumping TV theatrics. This is Trump's idea of leadership, turning the Pentagon into open mic night at a dive bar. And just when you thought the circus couldn't get any worse, in waddles Donald Trump himself, slurring, slobbering, threatening.
It was obviously always just a setup for Donald Trump to harangue that audience with what turned out to be stream of consciousness madness, complete with hallucinations and an endless stream of pathological lies. A group of officers who earned their jobs in ways that Donald Trump never could, had to sit there and listen to a clown who stood before them in what appears to be a homemade brew of orange makeup slathered all over his face because he thinks it makes him look better.
And Trump, a 5-time draft dodger, has a lot of nerve to dish out mindless crap to our military leadership. 5 times another man had to go in his place. What if that was your son, your husband, your brother? Those 2 frauds would shove a veteran aside just to get a picture shaking one's hand. That's betrayal. That's hypocrisy. And every veteran in this country ought to be furious. This whole circus was nothing but cosplay. You can picture them around a table. How can we make this moron look like Patton? How can we make it feel like a movie? I guarantee you that's the conversation that they had. But real leadership doesn't need gold trim or staged theatrics. This wasn't some noble gathering. This was a secret show. And I guarantee you when it was over, those leaders looked at each other and thought, what the hell did we just fly halfway around the world for? He turns the whole event into a campaign rally, attacking Democrats, boasting about himself, begging for credit. This wasn't a briefing for military leaders. It was a stump speech dressed up with medals and uniforms in the background. And the audience knew it. Reports say those generals sat there stone-faced, giving him nothing. Not a smile, not a clap, just silence. Then came the most chilling part, echoing Hegseth's rhetoric about the enemy from within. Trump all but called for the military to turn its sights inward, treating fellow Americans as the enemy. Let me tell you, I wore that uniform for 24 years. I've seen what happens when soldiers are told their own people are the target. That's the language of dictators, not presidents. That's how democracies die. And all this while the government is on the verge of a shutdown. Soldiers about to miss paychecks. Families about to feel the pinch, and Trump's up there spewing about Nobel Prizes and paranoia. That's the priority, not governing, not protecting the men and women who serve, but making sure his fragile ego got stroked. Unbelievable. Then Pete Hegseth waddles up there talking about attack first and get rid of the rules of engagement. This is the same guy who brags about doing PT with the troops, but let's be honest, the guy can barely do a doggone pull-up. And let me tell you something, rules of engagement exist for a reason. In Iraq, we stopped doing warning shots because ricochets were killing innocent people. You want to turn a village into a hornet's nest? Do stupid crap like that. Stop following the rules of engagement. Here's how it plays out. One convoy drives through, opens fire on anybody and everybody, then rows out. 20 minutes later, another convoy comes down that same road, and suddenly they're getting lit up from every direction. Why? Because the first crew pissed off the whole village. That's how you lose the ground. That's how you put soldiers in unnecessary danger. And I've seen it. I've seen those Blackwater mercenaries do the exact same. Shoot up civilians, no accountability, cash in $350,000 a year tax-free, while the rest of us were out there risking our friggin' necks for pennies. That's the reality. And that's what Pete Hegseth wants to bring back. A military without discipline, without rules, without accountability. That ain't strength. That's weakness disguised as bravado. That's stupidity. And now we hear this crap about, I don't want to see fat soldiers. Let me translate that. They're about to do a massive cut in our military. And I'll tell you the truth, I've known plenty of soldiers who had weight issues, but were still absolute badasses. I've seen guys run 4 miles a day, still carrying a few extra pounds, but tough as nails. Some of the best soldiers I ever knew were the big guys. At Fort Bragg, most days started with the 4-mile run, and Fridays were the first sergeant's run. You better be ready, because that old first sergeant, older than anybody in the brigade, would run your ass to the friggin' sun, 7, 8, sometimes 9 miles, and he loved every minute of it. That was the grind. That was the standard. But let me tell you something. Carrying a little weight don't make you weak. Some of the strongest, hardest working soldiers I've ever known were big. They could haul a ruck, drag a buddy, carry a heavy gun, and still outrun half the skinny kids. But under this new rhetoric, under this mindset, they'll toss those soldiers aside. They'll cut careers short and push out damn good men and women just because they don't fit somebody's picture-perfect mold. After 40 minutes of this charade, Trump's nonsense, Hegseth's cosplay, the whole dangerous spectacle, you know what happened. Total silence. No thunderous applause, not a standing ovation. Crickets. Awkward as awkward can be. The most decorated military audience in the world sat on their hands and said nothing. That's silence. That's the humiliating legacy of this stunt, and that's a fact. Sappers clear the way, airborne all the way.